people with MS, that myelin sheath is chewed away, and that's kind of where I'm, so I did a little fun play on words with that. And what DAMMS is, I want to raise awareness of the positive effects of ballroom dance for people with demyelinating invisible autoimmune disorders. That's the whole purpose for it. And the goals are, I want to get out there and educate dance instructors on what the autoimmune issues are and how to work with people with those. And then to contact people with those autoimmune disorders and help them to understand the benefits that they can get from ballroom dance. When I started ballroom dancing and realized how well I felt, I started doing a lot of research. I said, man, there's got to be something to this. And there is. There's a whole lot of specifically peer-reviewed evidence that shows, and it's good for everybody in general, but it's good for me and my organization to be able to specifically say, ballroom dance is responsible for doing these things for people with autoimmune disorders. So those are the two main education things that I do. And then I try to connect individuals with these autoimmune disorders with the instructors. I need to make sure the instructors have all of the qualifications. And then lastly, and probably most important, is that for those of us with autoimmune disorders, our medications are not cheap. Our therapies are not cheap. I was on an injection that was probably $20,000 a month almost. And that's, thank God we had insurance. And so I want to be able to help offset the cost or cover cost of ballroom dance for these individuals. So I have a grant application for people to fill out. So that's my organization. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to it. My husband is military. He still is. He's reservist now. Mostly because when he was on active duty, I felt symptoms. We were in Nebraska, and it got very cold for me. And I was like, he's deployed, and I was out shoveling snow, and I could no longer hold on to the shovel. And my legs got a little wobbly, and I was like, oh no. My mom and her brother, my uncle, both had multiple sclerosis, and I knew that MS would be a death sentence for me based on how they were. And I was like, no, I'm gonna fight this. And things continued to get worse with the cold, and so I talked to my husband. I said, look, I just don't know if this is MS or not. I'm concerned that you'll be deployed, and we have two very young children. Maybe we need for you to come off of active duty. And so we agreed that he should probably come off of active duty. And so right as Twin Towers were falling, we were coming off of active duty. So he missed recall because he was in between active and reserve. So he didn't get recalled at that point. But we moved from Nebraska down to Florida, and
Here we go.
there it is. Okay, so this is me in 2001 as he's coming off of active duty. And funny enough, I should put me in the middle, well, was threatening to put me in the middle of the ER to watch me walk in circles if I was getting too upset, because I had this thing where half of my body didn't function. And I couldn't stand up on both legs. We said it's time to go to the ER. And we went, and I was having a hard time. He said, I'm going to put you in the middle of the floor and let you make crop circles. But he's always trying to make me laugh whenever I had to go to the hospital. This disease is not a fun process. So this is where we found out I had one lesion in my brain. They could not diagnose me with MS because M is multiple and I only had one. But the neurologist said he thoroughly felt that I had MS. We would just have to sit and wait. And so Chip and I talked. I said, okay, look, it's supposed to be cooler where for people with MS, you need it to be cooler, even though Nebraska was horrible. We moved from here, Brevard County, up to Kentucky. And I started doing a little bit better, and I said, okay, I'm going to try and go back to school. And I did.
It's just time.
Okay, so one thing I didn't explain is that when we went from Nebraska down to Florida, I was in college going for my AA in Nebraska, and I had several offers to different colleges with scholarships. And the one I wanted the most I received was the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for pre-med. And as we came to Florida and all the neurologic stuff happened, I had to turn that down. I realized that med school might be too much and could potentially cause me more harm. So when we went up to Kentucky, I decided I would go back into biology and finish it with a biology degree. And this is me doing my research. And I have it here in the event anybody's curious. I did get published in, this one is kind of just a for fun magazine for people who are fishers. That is on the end of life of my species of fish. And this one in here is, the research I did was embryology on a species of fish that it had never been done on before. And it did get published in a peer-reviewed journal. That took me a very long time to be an undergraduate sole female author. It took me 5 years. So I was extremely happy to have that happen, especially since I didn't get to go to medical school. Okay, so towards the end of my education, the cold was again getting to me really, in a really bad way. I would park at the school, I'd walk up to the door, and I would try and turn the doorknob to go into the building, and I couldn't turn the doorknob. It was an old university, and they had doorknobs. I talked to the president, and he said, we'll give you special permission to park up close. And because I had done my science research and presented it very well and won awards for it, he said, look, we're gonna let you go ahead and walk your commencement in May with all of your honors and awards, and you go ahead and go back to Florida, you finish your last 2 classes virtually. And so that's what I did. We packed ourselves back up and came down to Florida. And when we came to Florida, I started getting really sick again. And 2005 is when we were back. 2006, Chip was getting deployed post 9/11. And that's when I lost sight in both of my eyes and became a complete invalid. I was completely incapacitated. I was a blob on a floor. He was on the other side of the state, and I had 2 children. One was elementary school and one was starting middle school, and that started the longest year of my life. I had to fight pretty hard to get it back, and I did. This is me probably 2 years after I lost my sight. I regained most things. I still have things that aren't right, but I came back and I said, I'm gonna do this 5K, and I have my wheelchair in case I can't walk the whole thing. I'm sitting in it and somebody can push me. Well, I got to the finish line pushing my wheelchair. I was like, okay, we're gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep fighting. And I came back a year later, did the same race. And I finished it in just under a 15-minute mile. I said, okay, now I've got my stuff physically back up. It's time to grow some more. It's time to go back to school. I have my bachelor's degree, and as far as I'm concerned, I got my life back when I didn't think I'd have one. And I said, I want to go back to biology. And so I went up to UCF and was looking to join a PhD program for sea turtle conservation. And they said, yeah, we'd love to have you, but you need to come out with the team and experience the team, make sure everybody works well together. And when I went out there, I realized I still have issues with thermoregulation. I may not be able to keep up with this. I'm still going to apply, but I'm going to do a backup. And my backup was a master's degree in leadership from seminary. So I had to go back and get steroid treatment. This is me. I did get accepted to both of them the same day, and I had to make the decision, and I thought long and hard about the fact it was pretty much a med school decision all over again. If I go through and do the sea turtle program and I'm out there in the middle of the boat and suddenly neurologic symptoms happen, I'm gonna be creating an issue for everybody else in the boat in addition. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go graduate school, seminary. And so steroid treatments is how I did it every other month. I had to go get steroid treatments. There's me with my little cherubs in my school. I was in the middle of getting steroid treatment here. It was horrible. Getting the steroid treatment, I don't know if any of you here have ever been, I assume probably everybody has been on the little steroid pack where you take the 7, 6, 5, 4, and how bad you feel. But think about the most you take in a day is like 10 milligrams or something like that. I was taking 1,000 milligrams, so a full gram in an IV. And I would take that 3 to 5 days a week. And it killed me. I mean, I literally felt horrible. I was getting driven out to my classes in Orlando so that I could do my classes, and that's even with brain fog. But I kept pushing myself. And here I am, we're getting closer to the end, and I was so happy. Those ladies were my best. I did make it. I got my graduate degree. Thank God for that. And then I was like, okay, now what next? Well, before I started graduate school in that little limbo, I started writing my memoir, and I got it published. And it actually was put into a competition and won a first in category. So I have that there if anybody's curious. That was my biggest thing. That's where I first started speaking and talking to people about what I'd been through and how I came out of it. Sorry guys, I have this technical issue. There we go. Then I decided, actually 2013, when I graduated from graduate school, my husband said, how about let's try and dance? Let's go do ballroom dancing. And I'm like, no. What if it's too hot in the studio? I will overheat. What if? MS is a horrible thing and it sucks. What if? Finally, 2016 I did. I went and started learning ballroom dancing, and it was a country ballroom dance studio, which is different than mainstream ballroom. So this is me doing both of those. And I said, 2020 happened. But before 2020 happened, in 2019, there is a man named Jonathan Roberts who's connected with Dancing with the Stars, for the Stars. Anyway, he was one of the professionals, and he was trying to put something together, kind of maybe sort of what I'm doing now, but in a different way, raising money and raising awareness of ballroom dance effects for people. And he was asking individuals to get letters of support from their doctors. And so I got a letter of support from my doctor. And he said, and I do want to share it with you, he said, Ms. Walker has been under my care since 2006 for multiple sclerosis. When I met her, her disease was extremely active from both the standpoint of her symptoms and her MRIs for the brain and spine. She was having visual difficulties, uncomfortable sensations of the skin, incoordination of the trunk and limbs, diminished handwriting and gait instability. She was requiring frequent intravenous infusions of steroids to calm the symptoms. She was on multiple medications for MS between 2004 and 2015, which were either ineffective or poorly tolerated. As a result, the disease took its toll on her emotional state, with extended periods of anxiety and depression. In the last 3 years, however, she has improved dramatically. She has not required any steroid infusion. Her gait and her other deficits have improved significantly. In addition, her emotional state has markedly improved. Her MRIs have been stable, and she contributes this improvement to a number of factors such as proper diet, prayer, exercise, and especially ballroom dancing. So he put on there that he really recommended ballroom dancing for people if they were capable of doing it. So 2020 happens, and we're all pulled out of society and shoved in little holes. And it didn't take long before I realized that I was dramatically decreasing in ability I was becoming more depressed, and I wanted to get back out and dance some more. So when it was time, let's see if I can get this camera. It doesn't like it when I click it. Sorry, guys.
It's just,
Sorry. Okay, well, I'm going to move on past it. Yeah, at the end, in 2023, the beginning of 2023, I was matched up with a new dance instructor, and he knew that I wanted to get myself out there. And the only way I was going to be able to really get out there was to start competing. He is a world champion. He took me, I started dancing with him in January of last year. This is April of last year. And then I went back again in September and won more awards. And by this, I was able to contact the Multiple Sclerosis Society. They actually contacted me once they learned what I was doing, and they put me in a magazine, and that's the picture they used. And that started raising more awareness. So now I have a major community based on what I had done with all of the organization and getting myself out there to do ballroom dancing and sharing it. This is a national MS magazine, and I started getting more people. Now, I have a private group on Facebook, and it may not seem like a whole lot, but I've got 90 people in the last year. 75% of them came in the last 3 months. It is now self-feeding. I have people that contact me and say, hey, I heard about you from the MS Society, I heard about you from this person, I want to get involved, I want to get involved. And so the community is continuing to grow. And I just wanted to share a couple of comments from some of the people that have joined. I have a Brett Goldman, and he said, thank you for the warm welcome. My entire life, I never danced. After dealing with severe OCD and then MS diagnosis, I just now started to take up an interest in dancing to keep healthy physically and mentally, and would love to learn how to dance. And then he talked to me throughout it about how he did start dancing, and then his doctor's office, he explained to them about my organization and what I've done, because they're trying to incorporate new things into their rehab. I have Kara, who is an attorney down in Miami, and she was diagnosed 12 years ago with relapsing remitting. She had done dancing before, but it cut things off, and she said it was amazing when she went back how much her memory from years ago was able to kick in, and it took over in the place of MS, and she was able to continue on with her dance steps. I have a Chris who was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 20 years ago, but the doctor thinks that it's MS. She said that she was truly thankful for the group. It's giving her a new outlet on life. Dance itself is giving her more energy and focus and joy. Deanna Case, she has anemia, fibromyalgia, and she says that dance is also her life. It keeps her going. It's a reason to get up in the morning and do what she does. These people, they thank me. They're thanking me for what I've started. The National MS Society says there's nothing like it out there anywhere, and they want to help give me visibility to spread this. So where I'm at now, I'm continuing to grow the organization, and this year I'm going to begin making my contacts with corporate organizations for fundraising and doing what I can for that. But my biggest goal is to share. If I can help anybody else like me find the joy and a new life, the opposite of what we would be doing is, I hurt so bad I'm going to stay on the couch and hurt. Well, if you're going to hurt on the couch, you may as well get up and hurt out doing something you can try and have fun with. And that's my goal. Every day it's like, okay, I hurt, but I can hurt here or I can hurt there. And it's better to try and do something with yourself. With the hopes that maybe you'll forget about it for a second or two and just have a smile on your face. And it works. I've enjoyed it. I've met new people. I have a new community. I have joy. So that's where I'm at. Anybody got any questions?
So I will share, because this is something she left out, right? So when my wife went blind back in 06 and I was deployed, they started her on MS medication. So she took, MS medication is, as it is for all autoimmune disorders, is like, it's basically chemo drugs, right? It's designed to suppress your immune system so your white blood cells don't attack your nervous system and your brain. So she was on drugs until 2015. She hasn't been on them since. And I truly attest this to both Faith and to her ballroom.
Yeah. My strength just keeps growing, and it does with all the people that have been new to dance or those who were dancing before and had thought they had to stop because of MS. They're just telling me, thank you. You inspire me because I share this, I share the videos. I have 85 lesions between my brain and my spine from multiple sclerosis. I should not be able to walk without a wheelchair. And I have specialists all the time telling me that you don't know how fortunate you are. I'm like, I do. I do. I know that my life could be a whole lot worse than it actually is. But thank you all for letting me come and share.